Well, thanks for joining us today on the Big Blue Podcast. I'm Lee Goodson, and I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Greg Stone. Hello, Greg.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
We're here at the McCann Center for Creativity in downtown Tulsa. It is a windy and sunny fall afternoon. The leaves are everywhere, and I accidentally left my window cracked, and so the car was full of leaves. So anyway, that's the story today. But our guest today is Dr. John Gibson, the Southeast Campus Provost. Provost Gibson, why don't you start by telling us what are you most proud of during your time working at Tulsa Community College? Because you've got some transitions coming up here in the end of January, right?
I do.
So you've got a lot of culminating events and things that you've really worked on for decades, actually, whether it's been here or somewhere else. So talk to us about what you're most proud of here at TCC.
At TCC, well, and it goes back really to the start when I first interviewed, and it was just a real sense of pride in the college for what it's able to do and what it stands for. When I interviewed, I made myself a 4-inch notebook on the college.
Wow.
Yeah, and even came down a few days early to go through the campuses and was just truly amazed.
What was your first role at the college?
I was Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs.
Okay.
This was working for John Contagianis. But anyway, I had been at my other institution for about 27 years, which was a small West Texas college. And anyway, created this notebook of programs, faculty, and was just amazed at what TCC had to offer. And there's always been a real sense of pride in that. And I'm so proud today of what the college is doing in terms of pathways. How we're helping students meet those goals, get on a path and stay on a path, and retain and all. So that's been a big thing for me. Excuse me,
You're a little hoarse today. All those leaves blowing around that I was talking about aren't helping.
The leaves and all blowing around. But anyway, just and looking at where we are now with the co-requisite models, what we're doing with advisors. So just a real sense of pride in what the college is able to do, even in times of financial, I wouldn't say hardship, but challenges, opportunities, if you will.
Yes.
But we're hiring faculty, we're hiring advisors, we're doing all the right things for student success, and that's what it's really all about. So I'm just very, very proud about that. It's been great to have been involved in some initiatives. Of course, I was at Northeast for a while, about 5 years, and when I came in, one of the first things I was given was, we've got this fire safety training center that is going to come on, and there's lots to do behind the scenes there. So I was very fortunate and happy to be involved with that. And again, the college, really stepped up in terms of what they were doing with that. Of course, we've got a similar thing going on now at the Southeast with the Career Center, the Success Center. So,
John, you mentioned Dr. Contagianis, and I want to ask you about Dr. K in just a minute. But Dr. Goodson, if you noticed, which is pretty typical of my friend and colleague John, that John will not talk about himself. John always talks about we and us and the team.
And the work.
Yep. And I've always appreciated that about you, John. I just didn't want to let that slide where, the thing that you're proud of is just being a part of the team here. And I've always appreciated that about you, among many other things. But just going back to Dr. K, there probably aren't a lot of people who work here anymore who spent a lot of time working with Dr. Contagianis, and a few folks here and there, and a few of us who came in, 10 or 12 or 15 years ago, got to work with him a little bit. Of course, he was sick the last few years, battled cancer for a couple of years, if I remember right, before he passed away in 2008. Yes. So I'm just curious, because he's one of those people in the college's history who's sort of looms over a lot of things even to this day, sort of that legend, one of the legends of TCC,
Right.
TJC. Started off as a math professor at Northeast, if I remember right, and then worked his way up and became VP of Academic Affairs for a number of years. What was that experience of working with Dr. K. Like, and how did he impact your own approach to leadership?
Well, first off, it was outstanding, and that's part of the legacy of, I think, of the real sense of pride in the college. This was a brilliant administrator, and everybody kind of affectionately knew him as Dr. John, or sometimes Dr. K, but usually Dr. John. Just outstanding, a great communicator, very kind but also tough, could be, and John just had a way of being able to work with people, and I think one of the things I got from John was his sense of compassion, his great sense of energy, of engagement, of getting out of. I don't think John ever knew a stranger. He met everybody. One of the things I did get from John early on was to get out. I was at the conference center with him, kind of on the opposite side of the hall, and John would encourage me to start my day maybe at one of the campuses. And so that was a very valuable lesson I picked up from John, Dr. John.
And you still walk the halls all the time?
Well, I try to.
Yeah.
You've had a pretty interesting career in higher education. You've done a lot of different things throughout your career, from classroom teaching to continuing education, and then, of course, you're culminating your career with administration. What kind of advice would you give? There's almost 900 full-time employees here at Tulsa Community College. Probably another 2,000 adjuncts. Is that about right, Greg? Maybe not that many.
Not that
1,500.
many.
Yeah.
But a lot.
So yeah, a lot. Well, there's
Right.
a lot of people. What kind of advice would you give to somebody that's in a higher education career and may be kind of considering a shift within it, because you've experienced that?
Right. I think first off is to really love what you're doing. Just as a side, when I started teaching, I remember telling my father, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this.
Yeah.
Because I loved it just so very much. So I think really get involved first off in your position where you're not always looking ahead, but you're doing a good job where you are. It's real important to do that. And often sometimes opportunities they spring up, and it's good to be prepared. I had a situation where I had taught for about 9 years, and then a department chair position came open, and kind of eased into that, and that just seemed like the right thing to do. And then a few years later, on into continuing ed, and everybody wants to know, well, what's that's quite a dramatic shift from teaching in the CE, but really much was very much an art thing. To me, it was like working at a big candy store, very creative, working in continuing ed, so it made sense for that transition. So again, being prepared for it, and realizing that you can take what you've been doing, and that'll help you move into that area. And also, if you're at some place long enough, there are opportunities, you're aware of them, and they come up. I was fortunate through my career at Western Texas College. This was in Snyder, Texas, a small West Texas town of about 10,000. The school was about 2,000. Opportunities arose, and even with my MFA in painting, was able to move into those positions. But in terms of being prepared, I had also kind of said to myself, if I ever leave, I've got a history with this institution, and so they know what I can do, and they're ready to promote me into these positions. But if I go someplace else, I might need to have another advanced degree beyond the MFA, and that's when at 49, I decided to do my doctorate.
Wow. Good for you. Yeah.
And it was interesting. We were 90 miles from everything, and the closest
West
institution
Texas,
was Texas Tech University in Lubbock, and so I would make a 90-mile drive one way a couple of times a week. And decided, well, eventually I'm going to be, 53, 54 years old. I might as well have my doctorate.
Yeah, you're going to be that age anyway.
So I'm going to be that
Yeah.
age anyway. So kind of backing up, that prepared me for when the opportunity came up to come to TCC the first time. It was like, I can't believe that this job is perfect. I've done, it's over continuing ed, it's got the library, it's got academic affairs in it. It's got different areas that I had already been involved in through my career, and so I was newly minted doctorate actually. As a matter of fact, when I applied, I hadn't even been awarded. Well, I'd been awarded, but I hadn't gone through graduation yet. So I came in the summer after the spring of which I had earned my doctorate, and to TCC. So having said that, you need to look down the road. What are your goals? What are you wanting to do? If it's that you're wanting to teach, then it's going to be important to get that master's with the 18 graduate hours. If you're going into administration, it may be something slightly different than that. So look at your educational opportunities. And TCC is so good in supporting people through their attainment of additional education.
Well, I'm Greg Stone here with Dr. Lee Goodson, and you're listening to the Big Blue Podcast. And our guest today is Dr. John Gibson, Provost at the Southeast Campus. John, thanks for coming and visiting with us a little bit. You just kind of mentioned art. I think a lot of people know you're a fantastic artist, a great painter. If anyone's ever gotten to see John's work, it's just fantastic. Musician, that upright bass in your office. You play that thing, right?
I pluck at it. It has the same strings as a guitar,
Yeah.
the top four strings, so it's easy to pluck.
Well, what's we talked to you about what you were most proud of in your time at the college. Do you have a favorite memory, or just what's the best part of your job that you've had as provost?
Oh gosh.
I mean, you've been a provost for several years now at Southeast,
Yeah.
at Northeast before that.
It's really it's getting out and seeing people is what I would call the best part of my job. I've been very fortunate to be involved in some initiatives. I had mentioned the fire training center and what we've got going on at Southeast now, but it's truly getting out and finding out about people, more than just what they do for a living, but what they do.
So here you are, getting ready to retire. You've got 3 months left,
Yes,
right?
3 months.
And so what are your plans after retirement? We know you have family here and family in Texas, and you've got your profession of art as an artist that you're really so gifted at. So what comes first?
Well, I think a little bit of a break. Last time this is my second retirement.
Okay.
I retired from Western Texas College.
I
for
wonder
about
if you're going to be as successful
about
at
a-
this retirement as you were at the last retirement.
I retired for a week, and then I came to work at TCC. No, my plans are definitely to get involved more so in my artwork. It's a true passion. I think a lot of physical exercise. I've done that throughout my career. I've waned off on it a little bit.
It's
so
hard to keep up, isn't it?
It's hard to keep up.
Yes.
So I need to keep up with my 90-year-old father who makes it over to the health zone 3 times a week
Oh my gosh.
to swim and work out.
Which
So-
is why he's 90.
Yeah, exactly. And anyway, plans are with that. We do plan on eventually relocating from Tulsa to the Texas area down in Kerrville, which is an hour or so north of San Antonio.
Beautiful country.
It's beautiful
Yeah.
country. We have my wife Denise and I have children in the Great Republic, so we'll be a little closer to them.
Well, John, we're going to wrap up in just a minute or two, but the last question we always ask all of our guests is what we call the big question, which is if you could go back in time and give some advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
Okay. Well, I think in light of the pending retirement, it would be, young man, the next 40 years are going to go very quickly. It may not seem like it, but they will. And so my advice to you is to really live in the present, in the now. You know, that time will come. You will eventually get there. But it's important to live in the present, in the now. You think about the future some, but it goes fast. I mean, to me, things that I taught or did seemed like it was just yesterday. And I'm thinking back to the first year of teaching. And the memories are vivid, so it goes very quickly. So make the most of the day, but prepare for the future too, because it will come, and it's good to be prepared.
Yeah.
That's great advice. That's our most interesting question on every interview, by the way. So, well, you've been listening to the Big Blue Podcast. We want to thank our guest, Dr. John Gibson. You've had a long and successful career that has impacted tens of thousands of students. And so we just really appreciate you for spending time with us today. And we want to thank you for listening. Remember, you can catch the Big Blue Podcast each week in the week at TCC and on the Creativity channel at YouTube. Thank you, Dr. Gibson. Thank you, Dr.
Thanks, John.
Stone.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.